Hey guys, my name's SoulWolfReaver666. Remember 666, very important. So yeah, you should probably, subscribe, like this video, and, stay tuned for more. Yeah. Can I get my fursuit dollars now? Hey y'all. It's been a little bit of time since I actually made a video sort of addressing the grievances of the furry fandom. I just wanted to pose a simple question today. Is the furry fandom predisposed to drama? No, Tujo. Why would you ever suggest such a daft thing like that? We're one big happy family. We're supportive, we're understanding, we're tolerant, we are oh so loving and caring of our fellow furs. Bullshit. You know damn well that's not the case. Okay, so I don't mean to be hard on the furry fandom, but obviously with my last few videos, I got to see the best and worst sides of the furry fandom at play, especially on Twitter. I mean, you saw that the hatred and vitriol sort of just thrown about in a very casual way. It seems to be like every day there's something new that people are going on and on about, and I mean, obviously, there's a lot of, interconnected factors here that we could get into. I could probably make 3 videos just touching the surface of all this, and how, sociology plays into this, but ever since the, phenomena of social media has taken light, I think, like, when I was a little kid, MySpace was, like, the first thing that sort of came to mind. And then, eventually, Twitter came into existence, and from there, you had the proliferation of YouTube and it as a platform, and all these different platforms. You got to see, various types of people sort of come to mind. And as far as the furry fandom goes, the perception that people hold of the furry fandom is as a sort of a loose association of outcasts whose only, binding interests with one another is walking, talking animal people, and of course the pornography. Because let's not deny it, there is definitely a sexual aspect of the furry fandom that, while a lot of people like Craw would like to deny, it is very much a part of the furry fandom. So, getting back to the sort of topic at hand, drama and how it relates to the furry fandom. I mean, I feel like we as people, like human beings, as much as we would love to identify as our quote-unquote spirit animals, we are predisposed to being neurotic. Neuroses is definitely a component to the human condition, and from there, we just tend to like to gossip and talk about things. Things as they either do not or indirectly relate to us, and in some cases directly relate to us as certain phenomena and events come to play. Now, the reason I mention this now and just pose the question, I just want to get you thinking about it because, that's definitely a stereotype of the furry fandom, that we love to stir drama. We love to talk shit about people behind their back, and in some cases, right to their faces, depending on, our perception of their relative popularity or unpopularity to the rest of us, and whether their sort of, social standing doesn't quite match ours, or whether ideologies do not quite sync up to ours, or there's certain ideologies that they hold that basically mark them as a black sheep and somebody that we could sort of target either, as I said, directly or indirectly. But, with that being said, the next few videos I have will cover some other pieces of drama that were either had already happened by the time the Cure the Wolf scandal had come out, or were going on during the midst of Cure the Wolf scandal. So, as far as drama is large. So, as far as I can tell, there have always been people that are sort of like the butt of a certain joke, or, just petty gossiping. I don't know. I'm actually very curious, if I could just talk to some random furries in either my current social network, or perhaps, random people that I happen to, meet in passing fancy, what their reactions would be to that simple question I posed. Is the furry fandom predisposed to trauma? So, without meandering too much, I would say that the simple answer is yes and no. Now, let me explain. I say yes insofar as there is an observable trend that sort of follows, especially with social media as basically the weight of my evidence, that drama tends to follow the furry fandom. I mean, people get slighted, they feel as though they've been snubbed, and they feel compelled to talk about it, and in some cases they really want to convey to others that, you know, such person is a terrible person, or they feel perfectly validated in how they sort of portray or present another person, their image to the rest of the fandom. Or they just castigate and mark somebody for, you know, harassment or targeting. I say no insofar as no more than the rest of society at large. I mean, it's like, take your neighbors, for instance. I will bet you have at least like 5 to 10 people, depending on the size of your neighborhood, that are basically marked as just being quote-unquote bad people. Either they leave their yards untended, or they have strange proclivities that other people have speculated upon and talk about behind their back. And, you know, in some cases these could be true, they could be misconceptions, but, you know, certain components and certain circumstances will, like, lend more credence to certain things being believed or disbelieved. I don't know. It's definitely, it's not really a complicated, well, no, it is a complicated issue. It's a complicated issue because we as humans are complicated things, and we're given over to neuroses and, basically, what's the word I'm looking for? Starts with an A, I think. I don't know, some people are just anxious at default. I don't think anxious is the word I was looking for. I'm just going to stick with neurotic. So, being neurotic, you have a lot of insecure, neurotic people that are loosely associated with one another. And obviously, especially with political discourse, you get to see how this sort of plays out. They feel compelled to voice their opinions, or, you know, act with such certainty and such conviction that they need to be, you know, believed by the rest, that their ideologies are accurate and true, and that, you know, for you to disagree makes you a bad person. Now, obviously, this is an exaggeration. It really depends on the person that we're talking about, but, you know, as far as the furry fandom goes, I think more recently you can sort of observe this. People, there used to be a time where I truly believed that the furry fandom was basically one big happy family. Of course, you didn't associate with every person that you came across. Some people were just not worth hanging out with. I don't mean to say that by being mean. I only say that because it's like that fat kid that, like, lived down the street from you, and your mother was like, well, you know, it'd be a nice gesture to invite them over to your birthday party so they don't feel left out. And you're just like, I don't want to hang out with that dude. He smells, and he's a jerk. You know, kind of like that. They don't have redeeming qualities, at least, and they don't even have anything that you two could sort of match up to as far as, like, mutual interest goes, besides being a furry. I say all this because, you know, that's the one thing that sort of binds us all together at the end of the day, and from there it sort of breaks down into various social groups based on a sense of social standing, affluence, your background, as in how you were raised and what kind of company that you decide to keep. These all sort of play into who you associate with, you know, whether the person that you're associating with has, you know, overlapping interests to you. And I'm speaking on this anecdotally based on life experience. I'm not, like, going to cite you a paper or some sort of study. I don't really think anybody gives that much of a shit about, you know, we as the furry fandom. Although some people have tried to make us the subject of, you know, quote-unquote educational, like, you know, material. So, you know, from there, you sort of have a development of cliques and, you know, loose associations of people that form into groups. And from there, you sort of have a further breakdown as far as, like, you know, things that can distinguish you from, you know, the other people that you might be judging. And I say that because, let's face it, I think in the furry fandom, the only people that really come to mind are the alt-furry / furry raiders or Antifa furs. You know, certain people that have, as a group collectively, done things that have marked them as being separate from the furry fandom insofar as doing things that the most of the furry fandom would feel ambivalent on. You know, the furry raiders, they're the misconception or perception is that they're a bunch of Nazi furs. You know, there are some Nazi furs. I mean, I'm not going to get into the whole, I guess, debate about whether or not a furry can be a Nazi, but, you know, I'm just going to, you know, borrow a sort of truism from some people that I know, that as far as Nazi ideology goes, insofar as, like, you know, and being a furry, I don't think you can realistically be both at the same time. If you are setting yourself up for self-destruction. But, yeah, from there, those are the only groups at mind that really sort of, and, you know, communist furs, I guess, go into that too. That's, like, really the only, like, sort of, groups that really come to mind that really stand out as being sort of, like, separate and distinct from the furry fandom insofar as, like, their ideologies have adopted or co-opted their perception and standing in the furry fandom as, you know, the thing that they stand for. I think Burn Furs was a nice case study in that. I think it was slightly before my time, although I was a furry at that point. I was still too young to really be a part of the fandom at large. So the breakdown with them is, like, the whole idea of sexuality and the fandom is a bad thing, and that it cannot be tolerated, and that we need to maintain a social order that is, you know, family friendly and decent. And so that was a, you know, focal point by which that was a deciding, like, you know, set of standards that an entire group split the fandom in half, you know, antagonizing the other side as being, you know, degenerate and over-sexualized and, you know, so open to sexuality that it had become decadent and just basically nothing that the Burn Furs wanted to be a part of. Now, of course, there's a lot more factors that go into that, but it was, the whole thing was just kind of like what we're facing right now with the political ideology, to be honest with you. So, yeah, there's a lot of layers to this. And I'm probably rambling and, you know, diverging and going on to tangents, but getting back to the whole thing. What I'm trying to say is, you know, from any, like, group that has loose association, we're basically, you know, coming together. You know, people that otherwise wouldn't have found association, you know, otherwise, are coming together because of our mutual interest in, you know, anthropomorphic animals, and us trying to convey ourselves as these anthropomorphic animals, and, you know, from the ground up sort of forming this, you know, bond with other people. And we quickly find out that we don't like all the other people, you know. So also with that, you have conflicts of personalities or personality clashes, you have differences of opinion, you have all of these other bases by which people can sort of antagonize or, you know, take issue with another person. And, you know, from there, I can easily see that, you know, drama is sure to follow, especially today. I think someone's characterization, I should say, of Animal Crossing was a great way to put it. I think I read it in Nintendo Power once. It was just like, their perception of the starting, like, neighborhood that you get in Animal Crossing is that a bunch of, like, suspicious-looking tightwads are living in close proximity with one another, and that each person is such a, like, exaggerated characterization of what a person would be otherwise, and that they all talk shit about each other behind their backs, which they do. If you, like, talk to them, they'll openly, like, denigrate one of their fellow neighbors as being, like, stupid or weird or, like, not somebody that they really hold in high regard. And it sort of matches with the furry fandom because, you know, you had, like, in Animal Crossing, you had all these walking, talking animal people. You had, you know, internal drama. People would get pissed off with each other. And again, that's the one for GameCube. I think I, like, stopped playing Animal Crossing after that, except for the DS and, like, you know, maybe City Folk briefly. But yeah, it was a good characterization for that. Except in the furry fandom, it's definitely true. A lot of the furries are tightwads. They don't want to spend a penny on some good art. They want artwork for free. And they barely have any money to rub together, except for that $5,000 fursuit. So they're going to buy the $5,000 fursuit instead of pay rent this month, because that sounds like a great idea. Yeah. I don't think it's helped by the fact that places like Kiwi Farms, ED, and 4chan definitely do not like furries, although furries are becoming steadily more and more mainstream. Obviously, Kira the Wolf, that whole scandal sort of like dragged our good name through the dirt, but it didn't really seem to damage the furry fandom at large that badly. I mean, it's going to be interesting how it plays out, but I mention this because with more and more attention levied on the furry fandom, you have the possibility that more and more people are going to become a part of the furry fandom. They're going to adopt a persona themselves and, find association with these people, but through their association with certain people, they're going to find animosity or rivalry with other people. And from there, the differences of opinion, the, bases by which they hold their, social circles, and, I guess their social circles may not, overlap well with everyone else. From there, you sort of have a breakdown by which people self-identify or self-segregate themselves into small little groups. And generally speaking, the fact that somebody else is a furry is a removal of barrier between me and someone else. It's like we have a basis by which we can form an association because we are both furries, and therefore we have a mutual interest in this one interest that we have. And I say this from like experience going to cons and rooming with strangers in some cases. I don't do that anymore, but back in the day I would mostly just look the other way if someone has a certain proclivity or like a certain way they went about things, because the act of human decency, just pleasantries and niceties aside, and just seeing them as more or less an equal until certain things would come about that might break that conception of them. So I say that because in the next several videos I'm definitely going to start getting into drama and talking about certain events that have happened or are currently happening and going on, and there's a lot of it. And like I said before, I'm going to try to maintain a sense of neutrality and impartiality in how I try to convey or demonstrate certain things that I talk about. I'm definitely going to be talking about certain people. The people that I talk about, generally speaking, are public figures, quote unquote, insofar as they've come out publicly and routinely put themselves out there, to the point that enough people know about them that they should be able to sort of recognize them. I say this because, I guess if someone's an obscure individual, they probably value their privacy and stuff, If they're going to say, unless it's somebody that's, really, puts themselves out there and is really crass in their presentation of themselves and what they stand for, then why make them a target like 4chan or Encyclopedia Dramatica does. But yeah, I don't mean to ramble on through this video, but I just wanted to touch up on a simple question and see what your reactions are. And it's been something that's been on my mind. I haven't written a script or anything. I haven't really gave it much thought besides, thinking about what I was going to say, what I was going to mention, what I was going to bring to the table. But yeah, just as an everyman trying to make sense of this world around me and having such, vested and ongoing, relations with the furry fandom, both directly and indirectly, I figured it was worth mentioning, today. Just on the fly, seeing where this video took me as I booted up FaceRig to talk into the camera. So, yeah, next topic of interest, well, I'll keep it a secret, and you'll all find out by the time I start making the videos and releasing them to YouTube. So next video, guys, take care and peace. I hope you all take care.